What's up, YouTube? George Leeman here with MuscleMasochist.com. Wanted to make a video that I thought most of my subscribers would like. I know many people are interested in this, so I figured I would make a video talking about steroid cycling, what some people might do, how some people do it, stuff like that. So let's start off with some general advice first. If you're new to training, if you haven't pushed your natural boundaries to any degree, you shouldn't be using drugs. If you're a teenager, if you're young, if you're new to training, you can still get steroid-like results naturally. Many people don't do this. Many people don't push their natural levels first. They don't see how strong they can get without using drugs, and what ends up happening is they end up using steroids to achieve things that they could have easily achieved naturally. They end up using steroids to bench 225 or 315 pounds or something like that. And what typically happens is then they have to take more and more and more to get to new levels of strength. For example, if you needed to use 500 milligrams of test a week and 200 milligrams of Tren E a week and 300 milligrams of EQ a week to bench 275 pounds, what's going to get you to 400? More. You have to keep using more generally for those kind of people. Now, not always. I speak in generalities because typically people who use drugs very early on are lazy and rely heavily on the drugs, and so they're not likely to continue to progress unless they take more and more and more drugs. But even then, they probably won't eat or train right. So my recommendation, just right off the bat, is to get strong naturally first. See what you can accomplish naturally. People that take steroids and bench 400 pounds are happy to bench 450 within a year. So if you can put 100 or 150 pounds on your bench in a year naturally, don't use drugs, because that's already steroid-like results. Now, if you have achieved something already naturally, if you have gotten strong naturally first, big and strong, and you're looking to use drugs, you're looking to run a cycle or something like that, I don't recommend running a cycle. I do not recommend you go from having high natural testosterone levels to low natural testosterone levels because you decided to take 12 weeks of making slightly better progress. It is not worth putting 50 pounds on your bench over 12 weeks or something like that, maybe more, obviously, just to lose some of that strength and have low levels afterwards. I can't tell you how many clients have come to me after having run a cycle, and now they're going through PCT, post-cycle therapy. They're regaining their natural testosterone levels, and their goal is just to maintain. And oftentimes they can't even maintain. They can't even hang on to the gains that they made. So I do not recommend running cycles. If you are going to run cycles, make sure it's for a very specific purpose. Like, for example, if you have a powerlifting meet, running a short cycle up to your powerlifting meet might be worth it to you. If you're just looking to be bigger and stronger and leaner and live life that way, running a cycle is a very short-term way of getting better results, followed by a period of time of somewhat of a loss in gains, lower sex drive, less muscle mass, more fat gain. You won't like it. You won't like coming off cycle. So my recommendation is typically not to run cycles. If you're going to take steroids, I recommend staying on steroids, which means you would probably want to make the decision to stay on for life, unless you're 25 years old and at 30 you don't mind having lower testosterone levels than you would have because you used drugs for 5 years. So if you're going to use drugs, I recommend staying on them. Now that doesn't mean stay on everything you take. That means taking testosterone consistently, possibly from a doctor. If you live in a country where it's legal, you could do it like that. So get strong first, big and strong naturally, achieve good natural results. I don't recommend cycles. I recommend staying on permanently if you're going to. That's the best decision in my experience, because obviously there are many downsides that come with taking steroids and then coming off of them. It's not worth doing don't bother doing it, in my opinion. I do know how to do it. I've helped people do it before, but they have their own reasons for doing so. They're gonna go on a vacation and they want to look great. They're gonna, get married. They want to look great. They have a specific powerlifting meet or a competition or a bodybuilding show. They have their own reasons for it. It's worth it to them. If your goal is to live a higher quality life, being bigger and stronger and leaner, don't run cycles. Stay on all the time. Now, when you first get on, many people are tempted to jump right to using 3 or 4 things at once. They want to use Tren, they want to use Deca, they want to use EQ, they want to use Anavar, they want D-ball, etc., etc. I recommend, because you're going to be getting on for long term, assuming you take that advice, I recommend getting on just testosterone. Just testosterone. I typically recommend around 500 milligrams, maybe 400. 400 is also decent, but I recommend people get on and stay on 400 to 500 milligrams all the time. And what that's going to do, it's not going to give you explosive results. Essentially, you're going to have an extremely strong version of puberty. You're going to get long-term, progressively bigger and stronger, week to week, month to month, year to year. You're going to keep getting results. However, you will get to the point where 500 milligrams of testosterone or 400 is maintaining where you're at, and gains become hard to make again. And what people will do is they'll typically blast. There's blasting and there's cruising. Cruising would be taking testosterone 500 milligrams or 250, some people go very low, all the time. That's cruising. You cruise on a dose of testosterone. Blasting is adding in other things that you wouldn't take all the time. So let's say you're taking 500 milligrams of testosterone every week, forever, and you have a powerlifting meet in 6 weeks. What you might do is you might add in something for your joints, like Deca or EQ, and you might add in an oral steroid, D-ball, Anadrol, halotestin, whatever, pro-hormone, something like that. And you wouldn't run that long term. You would run that for 6 weeks. Specifically, the orals are ran for short periods of time, and that's what gives you the most power, the most strength. So before meets, usually what you would do is load up on oral steroids and for it to be as strong as possible. And some period of time before the meet, 2 months, maybe 3 months, you might add in Deca or EQ or growth hormone or something like that to help with your joints and tendons. Because as you're getting stronger, you can get joint pain. Your tendons are going to need to be stronger as well. Deca will help with that. Testosterone actually apparently weakens your tendons, which I wouldn't be surprised given the amount of injuries that people receive when lifting heavier. However, Deca and EQ actually increase collagen synthesis and will make your joints and tendons stronger. So there's your beginner blast, for example, before powerlifting meet or a vacation or maybe even a bodybuilding show, depending on, it would be different compounds, different ways of doing it depending on the goal. But there's your typical blast. For a beginner, you might add in 300 milligrams of Deca and 50 milligrams of D-ball a day. Maybe 6 weeks of D-ball, maybe 2 months of Deca before your meet, and then you would be able to blast and get as strong as possible for that meet. Now, like I said, sooner or later, the amount of testosterone you take is no longer as effective. You're already significantly bigger and stronger. Your body needs roughly that amount of testosterone just to maintain, just to be the same size and strength that you are. And what many people will do is they'll then up it and stay on that all the time. They'll go from, say, 400 to 600, and they'll stay on 600 all the time. Or they'll keep their testosterone the same, but they'll add in Deca and stay on Deca all year, for example. Or they'll stay on EQ all year. And that's another way of increasing your doses to maintain an overall bigger, stronger body all the time. I do not recommend going from low doses to high doses. You want to gradually build up over time in the amount of drugs you take for cruising and for blasting. So your first blast might be 500 tests, 300 EQ, 50 milligrams of D-ball a day. Your 30th blast, something extreme, might be up to 150 milligrams of Anadrol a day before your meet, 1.5 grams a test, you know, a gram of Deca, and you know, something like that. There are many ways of doing it. What a lot of people will do is go very, very, very high on orals before their meet. I've talked to people who've gone as high as 300 or 400 milligrams a day of anadrol or D-bol or something like that before their powerlifting meet. But obviously they didn't start there. They may have started at some point years ago with just taking pro-hormones before their meet, and then every time they blasted before a meet, they would gradually, slowly up the dose until they got to the point where their bodies started really rejecting the higher doses. If you take high-dose orals, high-dose injectables, it's hard to eat, you get nauseous, sweats, hard to sleep, no energy, stuff like that. You can get quite negative short-term side effects while taking those kind of doses. So you'd only take them for short periods of time when you blasted, when you needed to be at your absolute strongest. And when you were cruising, obviously you might start off with a cruise in the beginning of 500 milligrams a test. That may work for 6 months or a year, just fine. Then you may up your test to 600 or 750 or something like that, or you may add in 300 EQ every week as well, and then you would slowly build up that dose. There are many people who stay on 1 or 2 or 3 grams of gear basically all the time. And then when they blast, they'll up it to 5 or 6 grams of total use. But obviously this takes years to build up to. And if a beginner, someone who's never used drugs, was to take those doses, they wouldn't turn into a pro bodybuilder or a pro power, or don't even have pro powerlifters. They wouldn't turn into a world-class powerlifter or world-class strongman or world-class bodybuilder just from taking those amounts of drugs. To do that, they'd have to start off with a small amount and build up gradually over months and years in order to get to the point where you are 300 pounds with abs, you do bench 600 pounds, you know, squat 900 and stuff like that. A lot of people will experience some form of side effect, usually estrogen related when taking tests, or steroids in general is often estrogen related. So a lot of people opt to run Arimidex, especially at higher doses. Taking an anti-estrogen or an anti-aromatase drug is a good idea for many people unless you don't mind the side effects. Personally, I recommend people take low enough doses that there aren't a lot of side effects. 500 milligrams of test should not be tons of side effects. Adding in 300 EQ should not be tons of side effects. Taking D-bol for short periods of time should not be tons of side effects. But if there are, you can always add in, you know, an aromatase inhibitor or anti-estrogen or something like that. Aside from estrogen, prolactin. Prolactin is essentially the hormone your body secretes after sex. The hormone that makes you no longer want sex right then, makes you very sleepy afterwards. If you ever fall asleep during sex, you know, you're no longer thinking about sex. As soon as you come, you just want to go to sleep, basically. That's prolactin. Prolactin can be raised by a number of drugs. Some of your favorites, actually. Deca and Tren are known for raising prolactin levels. And what that can do is, that can significantly decrease your sex drive and energy, which nobody wants. And that can also give you a form of gyno that you can't treat through typical treatments. And anti-estrogen won't necessarily help with that. Prolactin is the same hormone that women make when lactating. So if you have high prolactin levels, you can actually grow tits that give off like a liquid, like you lactate, essentially. So lowered sex drive, tits, and lactating is not something you want. So I don't recommend people using very high doses of things like Tren or Deca, or combining them for that matter, unless you have some sort of caber or PROM or something like that on hand, so you can keep an eye on your sex drive, you can keep an eye on prolactin levels, make sure that you're not, you know, leaking through your shirt and stuff like that. As far as hair loss goes and stuff like that, some people get it, it's genetic. You can prevent it to some degree by not taking huge doses and, you know, healthy diet and all that kind of stuff. However, people lose hair without taking anything. People lose hair doing everything properly, so there's not a good way around it. There are certain drugs you can take to help prevent hair loss, but I do not recommend them. I think it's Propecia or something like that. There was one that people were taking for hair loss that made them impotent, made them no longer crave sex ever again. Which I don't know about you, but it sounds like you're ruining your life for your hair. So I wouldn't recommend that. A lot of people will get acne. Again, through proper diet that can be reduced, showering, not taking too much drugs, not taking super high doses of testosterone and D-bol and stuff like that. High doses can drastically make acne worse, obviously, which is why I recommend doing it moderately and slowly building up over time. But one thing that actually does work is Prolactin, I believe, accutane. That actually does work quite well for acne. However, I do not recommend waiting until you have bad acne to take accutane. If your acne is already bad, what can end up happening is the accutane will bring all the oil in your skin to the surface. So your acne will actually get significantly worse before it gets better. And to my knowledge, the way accutane works is it damages, I'm using the wrong term here, damages your skin so it doesn't produce oil the same way. So essentially what will happen is if you have a lot of acne and then start taking accutane, your acne will get worse. You'll have acne everywhere. And then what will happen is because your skin is being damaged, it won't heal properly. If you are bleeding, it could take weeks to heal, and you'll end up with very bad scarring, as you might see in some of my videos on my face or on my back or something like that. You can get extremely bad scarring because your skin won't heal the same way. And the scars can be purple, red, not necessarily what you want if you're focused on your looks. So if you do have an acne problem and you're not taking drugs, I would recommend taking accutane before you start taking drugs, not once you've started taking them and already have an acne problem. If you're going to take it, I also recommend very low doses, because one of the side effects of acne is it's hell. Accutane actually has a lot of very negative side effects. It can feel like you're walking on knives. You will not be able to eat very much, very low energy, dehydration, muscle fatigue. It's not fun. Depression, terrible. Very, very bad. So if you're going to take it, I recommend working with a doctor and using the lowest doses possible and doing it before you have a significant acne problem, if you know that you already have a problem with that. I never had acne until I started using supplements, and then my acne became worse than anyone I have ever seen. Because in the beginning, I went through a period of months where I used significantly more than normal, and I believe I used supplements that weren't clean, quality, good supplements. And so what ended up happening, and I ate terrible. I ate pizza, sugar, soda, all that crap, fried food, and I got really bad acne from it. So make sure you take very low doses, you work with a doctor, and you take care of it before you have a problem, and then you use drugs and use them moderately. So between estrogen, prolactin, discussing cycles and doses, acne, and hair loss, that should help out a lot of you guys that are considering using drugs. Obviously, it should be able to help out people who are already using them, because you may be using too much and you might want to take less, or you may have problems with acne or something and be considering accutane, and maybe that will help you out as well. If you guys have any other requests for videos or anything like that, feel free to leave some questions in the comments section. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out musclemasochist.com for approved products, apparel, online coaching, and more. I also updated my coaching options. I'm no longer doing the sale. Ended as of yesterday, so if you guys want to check out what the new options are, feel free. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.